I hurt my back.
Oh no. Welcome back. First shallow dip of 2022. Yeah, welcome back to the stream, everybody. Very excited to be back. Kendra has kind of been holding down the fort with her kidnapped by a prince. Just a little life update. I actually started a new job fairly recently, and yeah, I've just been very busy with that, so it's kind of taken me away just a little bit. But now that I'm getting more settled into the position and into what I do, so I can refocus some energy to y'all. So I'm happy to be back. What?
Happy to have you back.
Thanks, Bean. Well, now that y'all are all caught up with where we're at. Ooh, one more thing that I just wanted to bring up before we get started with our main stories. Something else that has kind of been, requiring a little more attention. It's a little special announcement for y'all. I have recently co-founded and started a new podcast, unrelated to Perez Periódico. It is called John/John. Me and a buddy of mine have started a new podcast. He is a huge fan of horror movies. I am not. So yeah, we're just checking these movies out as they come along, and yeah, it's been a lot of fun. We just recorded our first couple episodes today. We're going to be checking out the new Scream this weekend, so be on the lookout for that. All right, so let's start off with a little bit of news. It was recently announced that Pixar's Turning Red is actually skipping a theatrical release and going straight to Disney Plus.
We're going to talk about next Encanto. But I'm wondering if that had anything to do with it.
Well, I don't know, because it's only been Pixar movies that have gone straight to Disney Plus. Soul, right. Onward, Luca, and now Turning Red. So yeah. Even Encanto has shifted a lot of things, I think, as well. But it is an interesting point that Encanto had a little bit of a slow simmer, kind of merging these two stories now. Did kind of have a slow simmer at the box office. It debuted at number 1, but it underperformed until it hit Disney Plus, and then it blew up. So, maybe that's part of it, but it's just interesting that it's all Pixar properties that are going straight to Disney Plus.
I wonder if they're lower budget, probably.
Pixar?
Than the Disney, animation ones.
I don't know. Maybe. I have no idea. Yeah, it was just interesting. I don't know why.
I'm kind of upset about that, especially because it's a hard line to toe because we're also still in a pandemic. Mm-hmm. So I understand that aspect of it. But also, there has been commentary on how a lot of stories about people of color or more diverse stories are the ones that usually get, or not usually, but they tend to get shifted to those sort of releases.
Right.
And this would be another example of that.
Right.
But also, on the other hand, I don't know. Things that go straight to Disney Plus seem to be doing just fine.
And yeah.
It restricts the amount of people who can watch it, but despite that, the numbers seem to be okay.
See, of all the streaming services, because Netflix just upped their prices again to something crazy, Disney Plus is by far one of the cheapest options. Mm-hmm. I think they maybe raised their price by $1. So I think it's $8 a month. But for $8 a month, you get all this huge library. And yeah, a lot of these direct to Disney Plus releases, because it's so cheap, I assume, and a lot of families have them. So because of that,
a month of Disney Plus is a lot cheaper than 4 or 5 tickets to go see a movie.
Oh, 10,000%. And yeah, so I think a lot more people have Disney Plus than we probably know about. So I don't even know. It could be restricting to an extent, but I think of all the streaming services, it's probably one of the more accessible ones, surprisingly.
It's true. Is it going to be, it's not going to be behind any sort of extra paywall, right?
No, okay, because none of the other Pixar ones were like that either. True. But that's another interesting thing. The Disney animation ones that had a simultaneous release were behind a paywall. Mm-hmm. So Raya you had to pay for Disney Premier Access. Yeah. So I don't know. It's just
maybe it's just up to the heads of those different divisions,
right?
As to what they want.
Yeah. Who knows what contracts look like for Pixar and for Disney Animation and whatnot. But either which way, I just thought it was an interesting little nugget. As a fan of Pixar, I'm happy that I'll get to watch it at home. Yeah. Especially because we did go to the movies to see Encanto, and as much as I loved it there, kids in the theater, it's a family film, so so I shouldn't be surprised by families there, but
yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's just after so long of especially not being in like a family film for so long, being back in a theater with like small children, and they don't know rules.
They don't know how to act.
They don't know, like, what's that called?
Etiquette.
And you can't blame them. They are children.
Oh, I'll blame them.
You can't get mad at them.
No.
So it's just like, oh, this isn't like my ideal environment for watching a movie.
Right. So, because I mean, when we saw Eternals in the movies, you know, we were sitting next to teenagers, and even they didn't know how to fucking act. So, like,
well, that's different. They knew how to act. They just specifically didn't.
That's
want
fair.
To act that way.
That's a good point.
Didn't someone bring a baby to like some movie that we saw recently? Like a little.
I'm thinking of Encanto because no, there was a kid screaming during Spider-Man.
I think it was Spider-Man.
Yeah, there was a kid screaming during Spider-Man.
They brought a baby, like a newborn.
Like,
they're not even gonna remember.
Right.
But also, I mean, childcare is very expensive, so
yeah.
Fair. I don't think the baby actually was the one acting up. Anyway, that's all. We're off topic. My mom did daycare when we were younger.
Right.
So I feel like I remember going to the movie theaters, but even just hauling around one of us was a task and a half. And I assume that for a lot of parents out there, the idea of like, oh, I don't have to get them dressed and in the car, in and out of car seats, in strollers even maybe.
Right.
I can just go to the living room.
Yeah, and like movie nights. Yeah, as you know, you have started watching some of these movies with me once I was watching for the other podcast, and you know, having some snacks and some drink, like it's fun.
Yeah.
So when you can make a night out of it, like, yeah, why would you want to go? Especially if you're already paying for a streaming service.
Exactly.
So,
and all that being said, I'm actually very excited for Turning Red. All of the commercials, the trailers look really, really good for it.
It looks funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited for it. So I'm definitely going to check it out.
But that said, when this movie does come out, folks, please give it a watch. Support this movie.
I saw my foot go.
It scared me. I thought it was one of the cats. Yeah, support this movie because there's a lot of artists that work on it. And it's unfortunate that they can't get a theatrical release, but I'm kind of mixed on it.
I'm bummed. I wish they would have done both. But at the same time, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And I also know that it's safer to not go to the movie theater right now.
I think what will be really telling is what they do with Lightyear.
When is that supposed to come out?
I thought it was this year.
But maybe later?
Yeah, I thought it was this year. They put the trailer out, the first teaser out late last year, so
if they're smart, they'll do it in like the summertime.
Right. But I'm saying, like, I wonder what they'll do in terms of release, if they'll release it in the movie theaters, because it is Chris Evans. It's
Chris Evans, and the Toy Story franchise always does well.
Right. So that'll be interesting to see what they do with that. But it's just something to keep an eye on.
Can y'all hear Saul eating up a goddamn stone?
Is that what he's doing?
Yeah, he's munching. He's chowing down.
He's the time for a snack.
Stinks.
So let's move on to our next little bit here.
Okay.
We started talking about it in that last story. So Encanto, it is becoming quite the sensation.
Yeah.
And the release, just a month after it came out, really paid off in a very big way.
Yeah.
I think even bigger than what Disney was expecting. I remember when we did our review, I was a little bummed that more people didn't see it. And honestly, I gotta eat a little crow because even in our review, we talked about how much we liked it, but we said some things like, you know, how the music wasn't as memorable as Moana and things like that. But upon several rewatches since then, I'm changing my tune a little bit. I really, really, really enjoy this movie.
I'm kind of on the same boat. I think one of my notes was that the first song that introduces you to everybody is very confusing and hard to grasp. So it would make sense that the more you watch that, which by the way I've watched it 3 times.
Yeah.
The more you watch it, the more it's going to make sense. So now it makes sense to me. I know who all of these people are, so I'm like catching the names as they come along. I'm going to be completely honest.
Go for it.
We don't talk about Bruno. I didn't realize how good it was when I left the theater, and then I heard it a bunch on TikTok, and I was like, actually, this is a fucking bop. That's
one of the 2 songs that we mentioned in our early review that I said was one of my favorites of the movie. So I'm happy that I gave that one its proper due at the time.
Yeah, that's definitely by far like the best song of the movie.
That and Surface Pressure have been getting a lot of shine. The whole movie is just fantastic.
Yeah.
So just kind of talking some impressive stats that Encanto's made over the last few weeks. It debuted number 1 at the box office, but like we were mentioning before. But the soundtrack recently went #1 on Billboard's Hot 200. A Disney soundtrack went #1. And Lin-Manuel Miranda went #1 on Billboard's Hot 100 Songwriters chart because he currently has 6 songs on the charts from this movie, with We Don't Talk About Bruno reaching #5 on the Hot 100 singles, becoming only the 5th Disney song to do that.
Do you happen to know what the other 4 are?
I can't tell you off the top of my head. I know the other 4 Disney songs?
Yeah, the other 4.
I know one of them is Beauty and the Beast, Peabo Bryson, or is it Whole New World? I know Peabo Bryson's on there a bunch.
Probably the Elton John one from
Can You Feel the Love Tonight? Yeah. I couldn't tell you.
That'd be interesting. We'll have to go back and check.
Yeah, we'll get back to you on that one.
Don't cheat, but leave it down below what you think those other 4 Disney songs are. And if you cheat,
I will know.
If you perfectly guess each of them in the right order, I'm going to know you're a cheater.
And like you mentioned, TikTok has just gone crazy with this movie. And I'm very happy about that because, and I mean, it's still happening, whatever. But like for a hot second there was a lot of Lin-Manuel slander on TikTok. Whether or not you think it's rightfully so or just in good fun. I don't mind stuff that's just in good fun. But like some of it got like...
about Lin.
Anyway.
Don't come for his boy.
I'm just like, so... I can't go down this because I will get genuinely upset and annoyed. But anyway, yeah, people have been really responding well to this movie. And it's interesting to see all the discourse and people's takes on the movie. I still think pay a little extra attention to your Latin creators and their takes on this movie because I feel like they're getting kind of washed out right now. But yeah, either which way, it just goes to show you how many people are responding to this movie, and it makes you wonder like just how powerful Disney Plus can be.
Right. And TikTok.
Yeah, and
I have
TikTok.
a feeling a lot of the Billboard success is because of TikTok.
Oh, 10,000%.
TikTok spreads music around like shit you've from the other side of the world that you've never heard before. Becomes a #1.
Right.
Anyway, TikTok is insane.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'm very happy about this because, like we mentioned, when we saw it, we really, really enjoyed it, and we're kind of bummed that people didn't check it out. But now it's on everyone's radar. It's like a huge sensation right now. So I'm very, very happy.
Yeah, it felt at the time like a huge flop, like a miss that a lot of people, like a hidden gem that people weren't going to see.
That's what I was worried about because you always hear like, I mean, this is the first one that's coming to mind, but like a Goofy movie or like Atlantis. Like people like find these movies kind of later in life, or maybe they grew up with it because it was popular on VHS.
Like cult classics.
Right. And I was worried that that's what was going to happen to this. Yeah. And on one hand, I was like, it would have been kind of cool to be like part of that first group of people that like really, really liked it. But yeah, no, Disney Plus really just took off with it. So very happy about that. The more
times you watch it, the more details you notice, or just, again, the movie's beautiful. I say it every time Disney or Pixar comes out with something new. It's gorgeous. Yeah. But there are a lot of like hidden details, like symbolism, like a lot of butterflies. If you go back and rewatch it, look for all the butterflies. It's insane. They're everywhere. Freaking Bruno's sneaking around. Yeah. And we also caught in one of our watches over again, Dolores mentioned multiple times about like talking to the rats, hearing Bruno. Like just nobody knew. Yeah. Anyway, so there's so much there that you don't even get the first time you watch it, especially if you watch it in a movie theater where you're really overstimulated by like children talking around you. Right. So watch it 4 more times.
Yeah. So very, very happy that this movie's getting its credit. Yes. So moving on, Andrew Garfield has been in the press circuit for quite some time. He's hot off his Golden Globe win for Tick, Tick, Boom, the performance people should be talking about, but are not, even though he just won an award for it.
In an interview recently, freaking Andrew Garfield said, quote, I mean, yes, definitely open to something if it felt right. And I would have to feel very sure and certain in myself regarding Peter Parker, Spider-Man, right? Yeah. You didn't specify, but I figured that was what it was. Yes. Basically, he said that he would be, in a roundabout way, he would be open to being Spider-Man again. Right. Which after No Way Home, that's kind of, I think, one of the big things that people came out with. Like, we want to see more of Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. It was cut short. We only got the 2. Right. And they weren't great. So
I personally wouldn't. It was cut short in the sense that they just went ahead with a reboot. But I mean, I didn't particularly like those movies, so I didn't really care.
Wow, ice cold.
Even knowing, even admitting, I've said it plenty of times.
he likes the second one.
I do oddly like the second one more than I like the first one, but that's not what I was going to say. I was going to say, Andrew Garfield's not the problem with those movies. He's fantastic.
The casting isn't the problem with those movies.
Yeah.
So I'd be interested in seeing him now in something well written. It makes me feel like, damn, what could he do with something that was good?
Agreed. But here's my thing. So people saw these quotes and just, as the internet does, they just get very excitable and they just ran with it. And they're like, oh, he's coming back. He said he's going to do another. He said he would do another one. He said he's going to do another one. It's like, chill. Because here's the thing. Daddy, chill. He looks great. He's in great shape. And I don't have any doubts that he meant what he said. If the material was good enough and if he felt really certain in his heart of hearts, I do think he would come back.
I agree. Like for this.
Right.
For No Way Home, he did just that.
Right. But would he even want to? He's nearing 40. And to go back to the multi-picture deals and just the exhaustive physical regimen they have to go through, and he's been doing Oscar caliber work for the last several years. Mm-hmm. Would he even want to go back to that?
Yeah.
And I just don't think so.
I don't see it either. I think something like this, like No Way Home, which is super special and the only movie of its caliber, of its fame, I guess.
Right.
To do what it did and pull in people from other franchises, that's a once in a lifetime thing.
Yeah.
Because if you do it over and over again, it's not going to become as special.
Right.
So I agree. I think he may lend his voice to something one day, or be there in some sort of mentor capacity where it's not as physically demanding, or he's not the main person in the movie.
Right.
I think something like that maybe. But yeah, I think it's way too early to be definitive on him coming back as Peter Parker in anything anytime soon.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. If they put together a team and we're we are going to finish this. We're going to make this movie, whether it's a theatrical movie or just something straight a limited series or something. I'm down.
If they did an Amazing Spider-Man 3, one and done, that is the end, and they jump and it's 15 years later. See, that would be interesting.
That's interesting. But to think that he's gonna jumpstart in his own franchise.
Yeah.
I think whether you like it or not, whether he's your favorite or not, good job. The star of No Way Home was Tom Holland. It was the franchise that he's leading, and so whichever way you slice it, the Homecoming team, John Watts, Tom Holland, Zendaya, Jacob Batalon, that is what is breaking movie records right now. Mm-hmm. One of the highest grossing movies of all time right now. Mm-hmm. So I think Sony's going to want to continue with that team, because even though Spider-Man 3 made a lot of money, Amazing Spider-Man 2 underperformed, which is why they decided to reboot it. Mm-hmm. But no, this one's breaking world records. I think they're going to try their best to continue with this team in some capacity, at least their star.
As they should.
Yeah. All that to say, if Mr. Andrew Garfield wants to come back, cool. But
I'm not going to hold my breath. And I'm not going to be disappointed if he doesn't. Right.
Because I think No Way Home did for me what I wanted it to, which was to really put a bow on these other characters and kind of act as a real Spider-Man 3 for all three franchises. Mm-hmm. So it did that for me. But I understand, people were just excited and want more. So
yeah, I don't blame them.
Before we get to our two main topics, we have one last bit of news.
You have a lot of news.
I know. Black Panther 2 has resumed filming, with Letitia Wright returning to set. So yeah, this shows you how excited we are about it.
I don't care that she's back and working.
Glad she's okay from her injury.
Glad she's okay from that fucking injury. Yeah, and hope she's vaccinated, because it's anyway. But I think I'm frustrated. One, the fact that they would see someone spreading information to probably a very high percentage of children audience,
right,
and be like, that's fine. Do you want $1 million to film this movie? That's one thing that's concerning on one level. Another piece of it is also that I don't want Shuri to be Black Panther.
Right.
And I'm afraid that is what is happening.
Well, something interesting, and I don't know how true this is. So let me pull up my little notes here.
It's about M'Thiku.
So yeah, that Winston Duke, who plays M'Baku, or M'Thiku as Kendra calls him.
A lot of people call him that. The man's thick, and I'm not going to apologize for it.
that they have expanded his role. So I'm curious if they have maybe, even though it says Letitia Wright's returning to set, that doesn't necessarily mean there hasn't been extensive rewrites and extensive reshoots in her absence. So I know they stopped production for a hot minute there, but before they did that, they continued filming without her. So I'm interested to see what that means, because they could still dial Letitia Wright's role back. That's not based in any sort of fact, y'all. This is pure speculation.
Oh, yeah.
So I just want to get that out there. Even the reports of her, not being on set because of some sort of anti-vax rhetoric. I mean, we know that she has said those things, but we don't know the official word is that she was gone due to an injury. So, we're going to trust the official story, but right now we're just speculating. But yeah, I have a feeling maybe they dialed back her role if they expanded.
Expand somebody else's. I also don't want M'Baku to be the Black Panther. I'm picky about this because there's only one person who should be Black Panther, and it is Okoye.
It is Okoye.
100%, no question. Why are we having a discussion? Disney, hello.
Right. So, I mean, we'll see. I'm going to trust the team.
I was just about to say the exact same thing. I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm not seeing it, or I think it's going to be bad, because chances are it's not going to be bad.
Right.
No matter what, even if it's not personally what I would like, probably not going to be bad. So I'm going to see it first before I write it off, or... Yeah, I'm going to trust the team. The first one was great.
Yeah.
I'm going to trust that they can do it again. Even if it's someone that I don't like, maybe they'll make me like them. Like Becky Lynch. Good
good example. But yeah, so that is all the news. So now we can get to the meat and the potatoes.
The frickin' taters.
So let's talk about Peacemaker.
So we've only seen the first 2 episodes,
right,
but all 3 episodes were released at the same time this past week, right?
Yeah,
Thursday?
they did a 3-episode release, and then they're going to come out weekly after that.
And it's on HBO Max.
Yes, and these first 3 episodes, I don't know if the whole series is, but the first 3 episodes, all written and directed by James Gunn, who is, of course, returning from The Suicide Squad, which came out last year.
Which is where we first saw Peacemaker.
Right.
So I would say Suicide Squad is probably required reading for this one.
I mean, they do give you a
brief rundown, like a back.
Can we talk about that? The first episode opens with previously on The Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
I don't know why that was funny to me. And they give you enough of what you need to know about Peacemaker, and the team in that.
So yeah, I guess if you didn't want to watch Suicide Squad, you could just go straight into Peacemaker, but I think watching Suicide Squad first will give you a lot more character knowledge on Peacemaker, because he's kind of like, he's a very interesting character.
Right.
And he's very like, I don't know, just the way he was presented in Suicide Squad was like a perfect like, oh, this is who you are.
Right.
Gotcha.
And also The Suicide Squad is just a good movie.
It was really good.
It was one of my favorite movies of last year.
So who'd have thunk?
Who'd have fucking thunk? I mean, it's James Gunn.
They said James Gunn. Yeah.
A quick reminder for folks, James Gunn actually first moved on to the Suicide Squad after being fired from Disney, before he was then rehired by Disney. But by that point, he was already working on the Suicide Squad and the Peacemaker series. That said, first 2 episodes in, this show is pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah. It's pretty good. It's definitely more vulgar and intense than I anticipated.
Right.
I don't know, sorry. Dial it back. The superhero shows that I've watched in the past, like the darkest and grittiest it got were like Daredevil.
Right.
Jessica Jones. So this is like on a whole new level. I assume it might be similar to like The Boys.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I haven't watched that, but it gives me like those kind of like vibe. And it is very much rated hard R.
Right.
Do not watch if you are a child.
Yeah, no, this is not for kids. And, just really leaning into the comedy, but also the absurdism of this character and the world he lives in and his worldviews, as well as just the really hard TVMA R rating of this series. It's, again, part of why I love the Suicide Squad so much is because so much of the DCEU, this is technically DCEU property, so much of the DCEU has been built on trying to mimic what Marvel has done in the past, but they haven't quite found their footing. But when they do their own thing, like the Suicide Squad, like Shazam. It turns out really well and really fun, and this show is no different. But yeah, so I'm thoroughly enjoying what we've got so far, and what's nice is that there's a line in the series that is like, you know, they feel a hint of sadness coming from Peacemaker, and seeing, you know, getting introduced to his father, you can see why.
Buddy. Played
by Robert Patrick from Terminator 2 fame, and the guy's a real piece of shit.
Yeah. But I think, again, that's part of the reason why. Because, like, that guy feels like a real guy.
Right.
Like, that guy lives in fucking Pinellas Park. That guy, like, is someone who you would run into in the supermarket. It's just, like, a total asshole. So it's interesting seeing, like, Peacemaker's moral compass obviously would not be what other people would consider like a good moral compass. Just like seeing that, and we've only really scratched the surface on that backstory. I feel like there's a lot about his father that we don't know.
Well, we learned a big chunk at the end of episode 2 there.
Oh boy. We don't know anything about like his mom or anything. I think they're gonna dive deep into that. And I think also a big theme that I'm seeing, and again, no spoilers, is kind of like someone who grows up out of touch with how the majority of people go through life. Right. Realizing, like, firsthand for the first time ever, what it feels like for people who are, like, not men, not white, not straight. Right. Like, I think that's going to be a big part of Peacemaker's journey. Right. To realizing, like, oh, maybe I'm not as accepting and helpful as I thought I was. Because there's all this shit going on that I've never even considered. Right. Because I haven't had to.
And unless there's some sort of enhanced ability that we don't know about, and I'm not giving away too many story details here, but just seeing how Peacemaker, or Chris Smith, most American sounding name, just seeing the effect that his very old, brittle looking father has on him. Because I mean, Peacemaker is this... I mean, John Cena's fucking massive. Yeah. We see a lot of new John Cena in this.
We see so much of John Cena that I did not need to see. I'm seeing so much Cena skin.
But anyway, but just... So that's... I'm interested to learn more of that dynamic. And we learn a little bit about his father toward the end of episode 2 that I think is going to play a lot into that. Yeah. So I'm excited to continue with the series. But yeah, this show is so fucking funny.
It's really good.
It's so funny. And John Cena, man, like this show makes me want to go back and watch some of his like comedies that he's put out in the last few years. Yeah. Because I'm like, I don't understand how funny he is. Yeah. And I know he's like a wrestler, and that's like, so we were talking about how like good he is at like just selling a straight face. Yeah. But like, my God,
I didn't realize, because I don't know if I've ever seen anything John Cena's ever been in. Right. Besides Suicide Squad.
I don't know that I have either.
I can't think of any.
Now that I'm thinking about it. But it makes me want to go back and check those out.
But he's fucking good. Like, he's a good actor.
Yeah. And my favorite character thus far is Eagly. Mm-hmm. He has a pet eagle. He has a pet eagle in this, and it is the most adorable thing. Mm-hmm. Can we talk very quickly, or at length, I don't care, about the opening credit sequence?
The opening credits are some of my favorite opening credits I've ever seen in my life. So I don't want to spoil it.
I mean, it's all over. It's all over.
If you haven't seen them yet, I don't want to spoil it. If you haven't seen them yet, I know that they were just put out on YouTube.
They were put on YouTube, and I think on like social media, on like Instagram and stuff.
Yeah, James Gunn tweeted it out because he was like, a lot of people have asked me for these. So go and watch those. And it definitely wasn't what I expected for any show's opening credits. Right. But I'm going to learn it. Yeah. I don't want to say what it is, but I'm going to learn it.
It is some of the best. It is one of the best opening sequences. And the goal for James Gunn that he mentioned in a recent interview is that he wanted to make something that you wouldn't skip. I'm not skipping it. Yeah, I'm not skipping that. All right. So far we're really, really enjoying Peacemaker, and would highly, highly recommend those who are, especially after getting, a full year of these Disney Plus series, which have all been very, very good for the most part.
It's nice to get something
so different. Yeah.
Disney, like you were saying earlier, DCEU has been trying to capture what Disney does, but what Disney does is PG-13.
Right.
So I'm all for them going for rated R superhero content.
Yeah, go for it.
Go for that market. It's not nearly as like filled out as it should be.
The
only in the last few years have we gotten like a good amount of stuff that qualifies as like rated R superhero stuff.
Right. And most of that, like, who's cornering that market right now is Amazon with The Boys and like Invincible and stuff.
Yeah.
So like you have big time characters. You have Harley Quinn. You have the Joker. You can do these things.
Or you have these not little, but like less known characters. I didn't know who the fuck Peacemaker was before Suicide Squad, but Suicide Squad made me really love and enjoy all of the characters that it brought in that I didn't even know who the fuck these people are.
Right.
So if you set it up well, you have a whole new cast of people and a whole new catalog of characters that you can bring into your stuff that people will care about.
Yep. So yeah, thoroughly enjoying it and would highly recommend it to those who are fans of the superhero genre. Mm-hmm. All right, so we're gonna head into our last little bit here, and I'm gonna give you all a heads up. Spoilers, because we are going to talk about the Book of Boba Fett. So first 3 episodes have been out for quite some time, so we're going to go ahead and issue your spoiler warning here. With that said, welcome to Boba's Book Club.
Hold on.
Oh, you need me to do it again? Welcome to Boba's Book Club.
These are so dirty. I haven't put these on since I was in the office.
Are those your blue light blockers?
Yeah, I've been working from home for 2 years.
Right.
I wanted to look bookish.
Right.
Glasses.
Right.
Reading glasses.
You need some readers, yeah. So yes, we are talking about the Book of Boba Fett, and right off the bat, I really like this show.
Yes, I think I was talking to my sister today about Book of Boba Fett. I was like, have you watched it? And she was like, no. Actually, it might have been Catherine. Anyway, they asked me how it was, and I was like, it's really good. It reminds me of the first season of The Mandalorian. It's like this, like, chill, like, a lot of stuff is happening. We're covering a lot of ground, present and past.
Right.
But it still feels like I don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah.
It's chill and relaxed. But it's got that same kind of, like, we're leading up to something. This is just, these first 3 episodes are just, like, building blocks.
Right.
And we're getting to something big and important towards the end.
I don't disagree with you. I do appreciate about this show, though, it is doing something different than The Mandalorian. Like, yes, it does have those same, like, I mean, it inherently has a similar feel to it, but I always say it, no one hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans. So a common complaint about The Mandalorian, and again, this is just like the smallest minority of people, are like, oh, well, it's just, you know, there's a new problem to solve every week, and it's kind of the same episode over and over. And I'm like, okay, whatever, I guess. And now that this show is kind of like doing a little more of like a one like continuous story arc, as opposed to like meeting new characters each time and like figuring something out and getting something from someone and blah blah blah. It kind of feels a little more like your standard drama, not standard, but like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, has a longer story arc, which I like, and I like that it's bouncing back and forth between present and past, because we're noticing now the first 3 episodes in that they're kind of starting to intercross a little bit. And now, especially with that last episode, and we'll talk a little bit about it in just a second, people are complaining. They're saying like, oh, that's not Star Wars. This doesn't feel like Star Wars. And I'm like,
Star Wars is like so many movies and TV shows and books
and games.
How can, I mean...
Well, here's the thing, is that you're saying that this vast galaxy far, far away, which there's more than one galaxy, there's a whole outer rim, and there's all these different worlds. You're telling me that all of it, every single part of it, has to fit the same mold that you've created in your head, otherwise it's not Star Wars? Sir, you can promptly and expeditiously eat my ass, because I just hate when these little toxic fanboys get into their shit. Sorry.
Wow, he's going off.
Sorry. It's
just the common, you're not ever going to make something that pleases everybody.
Right.
I never even, I never even thought about how The Mandalorian was kind of like rise and fall every episode. And because we would even say that, like, there are different themes. There's like the prison break episode.
Right.
Feels completely different from like the very first episode, or the one where they're taxiing that lady's egg sack.
Yeah.
That feels like a completely different episode. But that's like one of the things that I love about The Mandalorian.
They do it well. So like,
but I also don't mind having something big that we're learning a little bit about each episode, having two things kind of that we're learning. We're learning a bit about this weird gang that's thieving shit.
Right.
And then we're learning about how the fuck did Boba Fett survive? How did he get here? Like, all that stuff that people have had questions about for forever.
I love that the first episode is verbatim the exact description that Patton Oswalt's character from Parks and Rec gave in that show. And I know everyone went crazy about that.
Yeah.
But
I'm surprised people remember him saying that so well that they were like, hang on a second.
I watch that show all the time. So I would like, I've seen that episode several times, and I did think of that, but I didn't realize how close.
It was like, even to like the cadence that he was saying it.
Right.
It was happening like back to back. It was insane. I hope he got some sort of heads up or like special screening or something. He deserves it.
Yeah. I don't know if the writers for Parks and Rec came up with that, or
honestly,
if he
Patton
made that
Oswalt
up.
Probably made it up.
Yeah. Because in that episode, he was specifically filibustering.
Yes.
So I wouldn't be surprised if he just made some shit up.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious. I love that. Yeah, episode 1 was dope. We kind of see Boba Fett as the new what's it called? Daimyo? He's the new crime boss.
He's a new crime lord of the city.
Of this city, and we just see him, kind of accepting tributes and all sorts of things. See that little fucking finicky little mayor's lackey. Yes. I knew something was up with him from the moment we saw him.
Yes.
It was a pretty cool episode. We got some flashbacks there. Him escaping the Sarlacc pit, getting his armor stripped from him by the thievy little Jawas. And then being held as a prisoner by the Tuskens. And then that through line, that flashback story kind of takes place over the next several. I'm assuming it'll go all season until they merge. One of my favorite moments, Boba Fett straight up kills a guy with a rocket. He kills one man.
Literally, like, first of all, you didn't have anything else like in your arsenal to kill one guy.
I think he was just pissed.
He was just upset. Rocketed the shit out of him. And then if Fennec, is it Fennec?
Fennec Shand.
Fennec. That's what I thought. Fennec pushed one of them off of a fucking...
Yeah, she's building. Like, I'm not here to fuck around, y'all.
Like, I don't even need both of you. I only need one. Love Fennec.
Yeah, she's awesome.
I was actually mentioning to whoever asked about Boba Fett earlier. I said that it was kind of like political. Like, it's almost like a political, not mob, but almost kind of like a mobby.
This is like
type of, and which is very different to like the Western that Mandalorian is.
No, I think you're right. I think this is very like space Mad Men, space Sopranos kind of deal. I know. I don't think you're.
Okay, I'm not too far off on that.
No,
that's what
I think
it's feeling like to me, which again is interesting. It's new and different. Like, that's not a bad thing,
right? That's the thing that I love about, like, especially going into like the Disney Plus era of these like properties with Star Wars and Marvel and things like that, and even Peacemaker. Like, I love that we can now explore new genres and new themes and tell new types of stories in new types of ways. Star Wars didn't become Star Wars by doing the same thing. It did it by pushing boundaries. It was unlike any other sci-fi. So I appreciate that, we're exploring more. And yeah, so episode 1 was pretty good, but episode 2 was like really good. So that episode 2 is the Tribes of Tatooine.
Yes.
And this one was actually mostly flashbacks. But we learned a lot about Boba Fett and his relationship with the Tuskens. He started out as a prisoner, but then he kind of slowly was becoming like one of them, and He was learning from them. They were learning from him. He fought with them. He fought for them. And it was a really, really, really neat story that I wasn't expecting. And it was kind of a new origin story for the Boba Fett we have now, as opposed to the Boba Fett we knew nothing about.
Yeah. It was almost like, even though he survived the, what was that called? Sarlacc?
Yeah.
Even though he survived the Sarlacc pit, that Boba Fett died.
Right.
That Boba Fett was gone. And the Boba Fett we have now is like a completely different, changed man.
Right.
Who, after that time, was mostly around the Tusken Raiders.
Yeah.
And something that I really appreciate as an anthropologist, anyway, something that I appreciate is that we got a little bit of it in The Mandalorian. That's when I was introduced to the Tusken Raiders. I don't know who the fuck they were. I didn't watch any Star Wars, anything.
Right.
But we got like a little snippet of how people treated them versus how Din treated them, which was with respect and understanding. So you could kind of see that cultural divide. And now, spending more time with them, you're seeing even more like cultural practices, traditions, celebrations, food, drink, like how they raise their children,
right? How
they think of the land and animals in it and all that kind of stuff. All of that is super interesting.
Yeah.
And something that, like, from what I have heard, in the beginning, there were Tuskens in, like, the original.
Yeah.
But they were just kind of like background characters, like filler species, because there's so much going on all the time.
Right.
And then I think from there, they kind of got that reputation. I kept wanting to say representation. That's not right. They got the reputation of being, like, savages.
Right.
Like, malicious.
Right.
Aggressive. They were called sand people.
Right.
Like, all that's super racist.
Right.
So to see now they have like a language and a hierarchy, and you can see that and appreciate it as Boba learns about it and appreciates it. I think that's super, super cool of them to do.
Absolutely. And especially when and what you just said, when you think about how much Westerns have directly influenced Star Wars, the original Star Wars movies. Yeah. George Lucas would put a character that was more or less representative of the native population. And yeah, our main heroes would kind of refer to them as savages, because that's what like the cowboys would do in those movies.
Right.
And yeah, but to get that insight into their practices from a cultural standpoint is really cool. And I'm curious, once the Disney Gallery on this comes out, as to what cultures they pulled from, because the episode ends with this really, really beautiful, tribal dance they do to kind of finish initiating Boba Fett into their tribe. It's really, really cool. In between all that, though, we do get that nasty little acid lizard that just... Talk about just a jarring moment, a Din jarring moment.
Very Din jarring. It was like, it was part of the Tusken, whatever this rite of passage was. That's what it felt like to me. Like something that they probably do when children become adults or something like that. So part of this initiation is basically you have to go on a soul journey. That's also a physical journey to go find, a gaffy tree?
Yeah.
Where you bring back like the wood that they use to make your weapon, your stick, your gaffy stick. So they're in the middle of the fucking desert. Where the fuck are you going to find a tree? It doesn't matter, because the lizard will tell you how. So when they brought out this fucking lizard, how have they been keeping it alive? Firstly. Secondly,
it eat brain.
I thought, like, is this going to be a lucky grasshopper in Mulan situation where he was going to be like led by this lizard? And then they opened it and I was like, does he need to eat the lizard? And then the lizard jumped up his nose. I assume it went inside of his brain. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. Anyway, it chewed around up there and led him to the only tree. He like blacked out and was tripping hard.
Right.
And he saw the Jawas, which I thought was very interesting. He saw the sand that looked like waves, which is indicative of where he is now versus his home planet, which was covered in fucking oceans.
Water. Yeah.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
And like he was awake when the Jawas took his armor.
He probably thought that was the last thing he was going to see alive.
Right. So it would make sense that they left such an impact that he would hallucinate them
right
in mid-trip. But it was very interesting. The tree swallowed him up, and then he got his stick, and yeah, it was really cool. But I didn't expect a fucking lizard to go up someone's nose.
No.
And quite frankly, it was disgusting.
Yeah, that was pretty fucking gross. And it was cool to see him. We saw that he had a gaffy stick in The Mandalorian season 2, but it was cool to see that he actually made that himself. It's not like something he just took from someone.
He made it and he earned it.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was...
I like it.
This whole story that he has with the Tuskens is actually very beautiful, and I can really appreciate Robert Rodriguez and Jon Favreau's take on just this type of story. We also learned, y'all, there are more Hutts. The Hutts ain't gone just because Jabba's gone,
and they're just as, if not more, disgusting.
Yeah, because they're twins. But like, why are y'all so close?
Why are y'all touching like that?
Yeah, y'all drying your like sweat and drool with little rats. You're making these poor fucking people just carry you around like Xerxes in 300. Yeah. And they're like shaking the whole time.
Yeah, they're fucking struggling.
I wrote here, somebody find Diego Luna.
Oh, yeah. Because Diego Luna is really interested in the texture
of Yaba. Yeah.
I love Diego Luna so much. He's so cute.
Kendra and I had 2 oh shit moments back to back because we saw the Hutts. I remember I was like, oh shit. And then we see this fucking massive Wookiee come out. His name is Black Chrysanthemum.
Which is like, why?
But we were also like, we saw him come out, this huge we both went, oh shit.
Like, why do they have to make like a cool, tough looking Wookiee? They already were like big and intimidating.
Right.
I guess
Chewy.
Kind of became lovable.
Right.
So maybe they were like worried that people, if they just saw a Wookiee, they'd be like, looks cute.
This motherfucker's like...
No, they made sure this man did not look cute. He's terrifying.
Yeah, that shit was crazy.
And he has dreads. I don't know how to feel about that.
Yeah.
Why couldn't he just be Chrysanthemum or whatever? What's his name?
Chrysanthemum. Black Chrysanthemum. And if that motherfucker wants to be called Black Chrysanthemum,
I'll call him whatever he wants to be called.
Apparently, when he made his debut in the Star Wars comics, one of his nicknames was BK.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, Burger King. Yeah, I like that.
I like that actually.
But yeah, that shit was crazy. That was a really great episode.
Bonky Kong BK. Bonky Kong is here.
Jesus.
He looks like fucking Bonky Kong.
So episode 3, The Streets of Mos Espa. This one was also crazy. And I saw someone on Twitter describe this episode as serving mexcellence. And I gotta say, I completely agree.
Okay.
This, I don't know why. I mean, I still think as of right now, the best episode so far is episode 2, just because it was just a very, very good episode. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's just something so fun about this particular episode. Seeing how Boba Fett becomes this social justice warrior by hiring the poor after they've robbed a man who's been charging an arm and a leg for water. Mm-hmm. Love that for him. Love that for them as well, because they have some really cool moments. We see this kind of scary moment of fucking Boba getting jumped by BK, but luckily he just hired the squad, because if he didn't, I think he fully would have been killed.
Yeah, he would have been dead.
Yeah. Because this BK is a bounty hunter, which I didn't realize upon the first watch. So
that makes sense. A bounty hunter hired by the Hutts.
Right. But even all those fucking people fighting this big ass Wookiee, like, he wasn't going down.
No.
And
he
so
had to be tricked into a trap door.
Into the and not the Sarlacc pit. The trapdoor to the Rancor pit.
Yes.
Then the Hutts fucking dip. They're like, actually, we don't want none of this. We don't want the smoke.
Yeah, they didn't want the smoke.
And
they didn't want their fucking Wookiee.
They didn't want their Wookiee, and they didn't want their Rancor.
Yeah.
Which they gifted Boba. Do you think it's the same one from Bad Batch?
Yes.
Really?
I think
so. See, I didn't.
Because we knew that it wasn't the other one.
Right.
So I think for them to be introducing this, and I also think the Bad Batch is going to play a lot more into this than any other show.
Right. My only thing is that they mentioned in Book of Boba Fett that the Rancor that they found, or that was gifted, was a calf.
Right.
So that's why I'm like, the timeline there's like a good 30 something years between all that.
How long do they might take forever to age?
Like little baby Grogu.
Exactly. And it was a lot bigger than the one in the Bad Batch.
Right.
I think we might get a moment, and this, y'all, this might come around and bite me in the ass, because this might not happen at all. But I think we might get a moment where I almost called her 11, and that is not correct because that's
Omega.
Stranger Things. I think Omega might see that Rancor and be like, I know you.
That's Mochi.
That's Mochi.
Yeah, and then I love that BK fucking dips, and him running was the funniest thing.
He didn't need to run is the thing.
He just went.
He didn't need to run.
He just started fucking running.
Yeah, but that showed us a couple of things. He's not loyal to any one particular person. He's loyal to whoever has the fucking money because he's a bounty hunter.
I hope that motherfucker could have fully been killed and it would have been
100%.
Justified.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that he holds on to that and he's like, I owe you. And he comes back and he helps
life debt.
Boobie Fett.
I mean, that's how he got. I mean, fucking Boba Fett saved Fennec Shan, and that's how she stuck by his side. So if he assembles his own crew of bounty hunters,
think he's assembling a like really bizarre foster home.
Right.
I've said that before.
Right.
With these weird kids, these fucking Power Ranger ass kids.
Yeah. Before we get to them, I want to get back to this Rancor.
Okay.
The Rancor. I mean, it's nasty, but it's also kind of cute. It's very sweet.
Yes.
But even more so, y'all, Machete is in Star Wars now.
Yeah. I saw him rolling up and I said, wait a minute.
Fucking Machete, Danny Trejo, Robert Rodriguez's boy. Mm-hmm. He said, I'm going to a galaxy far, far away, and I'm bringing you with me, Holmes. And that just made me so fucking happy. And just one example of true mexcellence in this episode. And I thought he was gonna have no lines.
Me too. I thought,
but it looks like he's gonna be on the show because he's gonna be
like
the Rancor handler.
Yeah.
So
good for him.
I mean, I know he has a bit of a past, but you know what? That's a man who's turned his life around. I mean, he's like involved in gangs and shit.
I had no idea.
Yeah, big time.
I know him exclusively. I've only ever seen him in Spy Kids.
In Spy Kids?
Yes.
Yeah. Where he played Machete.
Yeah.
But not the same Machete.
No.
As the movie Machete, where it's by the same director from Spy Kids.
Anyway.
The Machete verse. So yeah, that just made me smile cheek to cheek. I love seeing him in this. And like what I was saying is that seeing where he's gone in his career and his life, I'm just like, man, I'm real proud of him. So I love that. And we also get this, like, I wrote American Graffiti here as an example because it's another George Lucas movie, but we get this buck wild LA street movie chase scene in the middle of this episode.
Pretty cool.
It was so cool. And that's one of the parts that people were complaining about.
I can see that people being like, this doesn't feel like Star Wars. I can understand that.
I didn't mind it. And I like that all that it's doing is creating more things that can feel like Star Wars. And I love the fact that they had these colorful ass bikes and a fucking lowrider. And I'm just like, this is everything I need. This is everything I need. Yeah, I actually really, really love that scene. I knew those nasty fish fucks were going to be the bad guys. I don't know if says something about me, but the minute I saw him in episode 2, I was like, I don't trust these fucking things.
John doesn't even like fish.
I don't even like fish.
Like to eat them.
So overall, now that that's all said and done, I'm really liking this show so far.
I like it too.
I'm curious to see if it will kind of stay isolated in its own thing, or if it will tie back into what's going on with The Mandalorian and Ahsoka Tano and things like that.
I think if it gets involved in either of those two shows, it'll be very minimally. Just like the biggest thing I can see is like an episode where they come together to work on something, kind of like, although Boba was in a lot of the second season of The Mandalorian, but just kind of like those types of missions, like one-off missions where they need to help each other with something.
Right.
We did see the mechanic from Mandalorian.
Yeah, she made a little cameo.
It was just like the back of her head walking. I'd know that hair anywhere.
And her little robots.
And her robots. So that was in the last episode of Boba Fett, and she was like a really big part of both seasons of The Mandalorian. Yeah. What was her name? Pelimoto?
Yeah.
So that was really cool seeing that. And like, if you didn't know, you weren't missing anything.
Right.
But I just happened to notice it. And I was like, I know that bitch. Because we even mentioned, because they're on the same planet. They're in the same area. They're in the same city.
Right.
So I was like, they might run into each other. If anyone from Mandalorian would run into her, it's them and this sheriff. Right.
But I'm saying, like, I wonder if, because there's clearly like a big overarching villain, that blue fuck, what's his name? Thrawn.
General or Admiral? I don't know.
Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Oh, I don't know if they're going to share those villains, because that sounds very much like a setup for her show.
Right, but that's a pretty big deal. I mean, from what I understand,
I don't know
in the animated and like extended universe or legacy, whatever's not canon anymore. But from what I understand, he was like
a
big bad. So especially if what we're focusing on is like them rebuilding the empire, I could see, you know, a big name like that being kind of the catalyst for a lot of that. So because what I believe the original intention was for them to have like all these spinoffs from the Mandalorian, you know, Rangers of the New Republic, Ahsoka Tano, several other shows, I assume was going to eventually lead up to some sort of big team up with all of these characters.
Defenders.
To go against him. That's what I assumed. So I'm curious if this story will play into that. It doesn't seem that way, but it'll be interesting because I'm assuming we'll see Boba Fett with Din Djarin again at some point.
Yeah.
But overall, really, really love what they're doing. And I'm just happy that this trend of Latin excellence in Star Wars is continuing with this show, and I'm really, really enjoying it.
It's like, goddamn.
Yeah.
There are a lot of y'all in here now.
I know. And
I'm okay with it.
And so parts of this, I mean, I love that they're staying true to like, they're being respectful of various cultures, you know. Again, I'm still excited to learn what cultures they were pulling from for that like Tuscan dance scene and things like that. And like their wardrobe and stuff like that. But I know just based on his fighting style alone, they were incorporating a lot of his like Maori.
I never know how to say it.
Maori. But like they were pulling from his own culture,
which I have a feeling they might do that for a lot of it,
right?
Which is what I would kind of hope.
But I was gonna say, like, even I was making kind of jokes about it before, but like there are certain shots and just even musical things that I don't know, to me feel very Mexican, which is Robert Rodriguez. He puts his own culture into all of his stuff. So like, I don't know, it's a really interesting thing to do with a big property like this, and I really, really appreciate it. But more importantly, I want to know what y'all think of the Book of Boba Fett thus far. So please drop those comments in the comment section below. Anyway, I think that is it for us.
I think so too.
And yeah, we will be back very soon with another stream. That is it. Say some final words to the people, Kendra.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. We got to get out of here. All right, y'all. Peace and blessings.
Y'all. Peace and love.
Peace.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Also, feel free to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Twitch. All right. See you next time.